All right, we are going to go live in 5, 4, 3.
A gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for, what's the date? February 21st, 2025 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, game sales continue to skid in the United States, and Microsoft is using the power of Call of Duty to hype up Tony Hawk. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Timur Hussein, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
Remember when I said everything's good?
Oh, no.
I lied.
Don't.
I can't see you.
Oh, no, my bad. Let me, I can fix that real quick, and then that's going to break things. But
and now everything is fine.
Oh, now
everything
you can see my fun
is
hat.
good now.
Yeah.
I can see your hat. It's very cute.
That's why
what's that kind of hat called?
You know, I don't know. I don't know the name of it. In my head, it's just the hat they wear in Soviet Russia. That's what I think of when I see this.
I call it the Batman Red Sun hat. Because Batman wears one of those in Red Sun. Is it Red Sun? Yeah,
Fargo hat. There we go. Yeah, Fargo hat TM. That's Canadian bacon hat. Yeah, lots of good names for this thing.
Charlie Brown hat sometimes.
Yep, absolutely. Now, of course, somehow I have the cameras got messed up. I think Discord's being weird. So let me fix you. I got to bring you down a little bit. There we go. Now we're all framed up. Tam, you've been traveling. You're back home. You've been able to keep up with any games recently. You've been kind of out there doing a bunch of stuff. Anything that you are enjoying right now?
I am just preparing to go on another trip tomorrow. So, what have I been enjoying? What can I? I'm trying to compartmentalize into what I can talk about, what I can't talk about. Yeah, I think I finished Silent Hill. That was fantastic.
Oh, good.
I've been playing the Warriors game.
The Rockstar Warriors game?
No, Warriors Abyss.
Oh.
The Dynasty Warriors game. That's pretty fun. That's a good time.
Kind of wish you were playing Warriors from Rockstar.
I've already played that. I mean, if they made that available to play on a modern console or a platform, I would 100% play it.
All right. Well, how is that new Dynasty Warriors?
It's fun. It's a Hades-like, I call it. But yeah, it's like it's got the whole like you're getting attacked by 1 trillion enemies, and you press the button once and it kills about 500 million of them in one swoop.
Well,
and you're
that's
like,
what you want.
That feels good.
Yeah.
It's good, and it's got like they made a good design decision in the way that they implemented all the many characters that are in the Warriors games and in Chinese mythology or wherever they pull from, by like integrating a relationship system. Like you can form bonds with different characters, and that gives you buffs and that kind of thing. So it's cool. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But yeah, beyond that, I've been mainly playing that. I'm playing a few other games that are under embargo, but it's been a good time. I got I'm playing Castlevania on my little Ambinic device still, which is a good time. Still doing that thing in Castlevania where if I encounter a new enemy, I cannot go past it until I collect its soul.
Yeah, true sicko behavior. Yeah, I love it.
Yes, it's real nasty, man. Sometimes I'm just
the nasty boy
farming the same enemy for an hour. I'm just like, cool.
I mean, it's worth it because I like a lot of those powers are really interesting. A lot of them don't do shit, but when you do get one that's cool, it's really cool.
I just wish that in the original, I think I'm playing the one in the original version doesn't have like a tracker that when you hit them, it tells you, oh, you've got this one. It's like, okay, you just have to keep going into it. Did I get this one? Yeah, I got this one.
No.
But yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, I've been I'm planning to start The Thing. We did a punishment because we did a stream about a game about digging a hole. And I won, so I handed out punishments and told everyone they have to play The Thing remastered. But I haven't played it either, so I'm like, hey, make like a game club.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Did you play the original?
No, I haven't. So yeah, this
back
will be a new
then
experience.
It was surprisingly good. I haven't played that since, but like I remember it being quite short as well. It's like 4 or 5 hours. And yeah, it was enjoyable. I remember back in the day thinking, wow, this has no right being as good as it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ushankas. That's apparently
Oh,
what
that's what it's called.
yeah, apparently
Ushanka.
that's what the hats are called, and I've heard that before. So that
Yeah.
that makes sense. That lines up with what I've heard on the street, Tam. In the meantime, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with January 2025 U.S. video game market highlights from Matt Piscatella at Circana. Basically, the short version of all this is that everything is down. Sales are down across the board. Total video game sales dropped to 4.5 billion and that's just the entire video game market in the United States from 5.3 billion last year. That's a 15% decline. Content was down 12%, accessories down 28%, and hardware down a massive 45%. People are not spending as much money on hardware as they were last year.
Do you know the Paul Johnson song "Down, Down, Down"?
No, I do not.
I feel like that should be playing right now because it's a perfect song for this.
Jan, make it happen. Just put it in the background for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Put it on now. Down, Down, Down by Paul Johnson. Skip to the minute mark.
Yeah, just 1 minute in.
Fantastic. Yep.
Matt Piscatella over there at Circana did a whole rundown of what's going on over there. You could kind of see some trends. It's we are in the back half of the console generation for the most part. Obviously, we are at the very end of the console generation for the Nintendo system. But both the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles have been declining for years. Matt pointed out that Xbox hit its peak in 2022. PlayStation 5 hit its peak in 2023, and both are declining. I mean, when I talked to him, when I asked him about this when he was on this show a few weeks back, probably would have been a month ago because it was right around the time of his last report. I asked if it was normal for his for consoles to drop this harshly at this point in the generation. He says it's normal for them to drop at this point. Yes, we are on the decline for both these consoles. That's normal. They are declining faster than he was expecting, and I think, Tam, that just goes back to a lot of people bought consoles very quickly during the pandemic when when everyone was trying to get them and making sure they had them, and the FOMO was at its height, and so maybe there are fewer people waiting in the wings. But I think it's still not a great sign that there's not a lot of people looking to still get on board to the consoles. And I think that is what's driving a lot of the anxiety from these companies. Even Sony, who had a really good earnings report recently, they're making a lot of money, more money than ever before in a lot of ways. Even though they still seem to have this anxiety about the future, and it's because console sales aren't really growing. PS5 Pro is out now. Why is this fever not breaking?
I suppose it is absolutely wild that we're like already in the conversation about these consoles being on the decline, which presumably segues into what's next for the both the brands, but because I do not feel like they have earned their existence in any meaningful way.
It's
like I can't think of if we closed releases right now and weighed them and like assessed them on what they have available, I think they'd probably both get a failing grade. Like it is I can't think of a less impactful console generation than this one, I think, personally. Like even the PS3 back in the day, it was like probably my least favorite release or like life cycle of a console. But it's still, you can name like 20-30 bangers off the PS3 as well. But like PS5, Demon's Souls is the one that comes to mind for me. Like what else? Astro Bot. Those are the two games that I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. On the Xbox side, it is brutal. I can't think of a single like amazing Xbox game that I would be like, this is incredible. Like the most fun I've had recently is Avowed. I guess actually now that I think about PlayStation, there's like Returnal as well is a pretty big one on that one.
Listen, there are games on these consoles for sure, but I
just
think,
not.
Yeah.
I mean, like I do think it is partly the FIFA hasn't broken because one, as you said, people were buying consoles in the moment for the purpose of taking their mind off things at that time during the pandemic, and probably were just like after that, once it passed, it passed. It was an expensive thing to kind of like splash out on a bit and then move on. So a lot of people are also like one type of gamers, like they've got their MLB game, they've got their FIFA, they've got whatever, and it's like, I'm fine, got my Call of Duty and not touching any of this. I also feel like the other thing is like console is down for sure. I would love to see how PC gaming is doing. I know it's hard to get a grasp of that, but like PC gaming has got a lower barrier to entry than ever before, both in like the towers that you can buy pre-built or build yourself, but also the handheld devices. I know a lot of people, this is completely anecdotal, so it's not indicative or representative of an overall trend, but like I know a lot of people who now more than ever, they're just like, I'm not gonna buy a console anymore because I can just buy a PC. Everything comes there eventually, and it's just more versatile. I can have and it can do so many things. And also I can plug it into my living room TV, which is like, I feel like the barrier to entry to that and the versatility of PC as a platform is lower than ever. And I just got to imagine that a significant chunk of people are just moving away from consoles and going to devices that are a little more ubiquitous.
Yeah, I think it's, I think that's it. And I think the argument that the console has made for a long time of being easier to use, they are still easier to use than a PC in a lot of ways, a lot more standardized, but they are not as easy as they once were. And a PC, like you're right, ubiquitous and versatile. And in the meantime, the consoles are looking a lot more like PCs, and so they have to make the argument of, hey, well, you could still get a lot of power out of these things, and so here's the PS5 Pro to compete with your PCs, and it's really powerful for $750, but that is a big price tag, and once people start seeing that big of a number, you are going to automatically cut a lot of the audience out, and then at the same time, it's still not quite as powerful as the most powerful PCs, which maybe are an order of magnitude, maybe like twice as expensive, possibly, if you want to get like the most power or whatever. But either way, once you're in that argument, I think consoles begin to look a little bit more questionable, and a lot of people are just not going to be able to talk themselves into spending that much money, and we're seeing that. According to Matt Piscatella, PS5 Pro has fallen behind PS4 Pro's pace. So people are just not as into the PS5 Pro as they were into the PS4 Pro, and the PS4 Pro was never like a massive seller. It did pretty well, but in the PS4 Standard Edition always outsold it, and outsold it by a wide margin. By the end, of course, it was around for a lot longer. But even when they were concurrent, the PS4 Standard was outselling the PS4 Pro. That's obviously true for the PS5 Pro as well. But fewer people are interested in the Pro model. I think that goes back to what you were saying, Tam, about people just not really feeling that need to upgrade, because a lot of people feel like this generation hasn't fully started in earnest yet, right?
It still feels like it hasn't. The other thing that I've been really thinking about recently and trying to figure out like a good through line to maybe turn it into an article or a video or something like that is, and this is just a dumb thought that I had, but do kids ask for consoles anymore?
I don't know.
Like, I don't think so, right? Like, I mean, like, you've got kids, so you would know, but I just think about it from like my personal perspective and think about to when I was like getting into games as a kid. I think we're now in a world where things are, the circumstances of the world we live in are so that people just, I kind of get the feeling that kids aren't really interested in consoles as much, are they? Because back in the day, I'd be like, someone would be like, oh, there's this game on PlayStation 2 called God of War. And then you would see it or you would hear about it. And then you just be obsessed with trying to get that console. Now I don't hear much about like teenagers younger being like, oh, I played this game called, Astro Bot on the PlayStation 5. You got to check it out, because their time is, and their kind of attention is eaten up by singular games where it's like Roblox or Fortnite, Call of Duty. Like that is, people don't with those games kind of taking up all your mental attention and desire, and them having their own economies and that kind of stuff, I just wonder if like the idea of a kid going up to their parents or whoever it may be and being like, I want a PlayStation, is just gone now, because people are like, I want Fortnite bucks, V-Bucks, or I want Roblox bucks instead. And how much of that, I would love to know from people like Matt, to be like, what's the kind of adoption rate for consoles among youngsters or people who traditionally would have been the engine behind console sales in the PS2, Xbox 360 era, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my kids have asked for a PlayStation before, but they're weird. They live in the house with me, right? So
yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit different. The sense I get is that, no, that generation is definitely not asking for consoles. And really, I think it's like pretty similar to the way music worked over time, where, you know, you had your stereo. There was a stereo that everyone was really into, and everyone got their stereo. And eventually the stereo became something that dads have. It's something that the dad has, and I have my Walkman, and this is my personal music device, and it ain't as powerful or whatever as that stereo. Who cares? This is my little device. And I think we're seeing that happen. And, you know, obviously it's not one-to-one, but the Switch being a personal, a handheld, and now the Steam Deck, and people seeing everything come to Steam and being like, I just get a Steam Deck. I think something similar has happened. And of course, really, that is smartphones. I have my smartphone. Yeah. I don't need a console. And so, yeah, I just think consoles are for dads, right? You know, or for older folks. And if they're in the house with you, you might use one, but like you said, you're going to use it to get on Roblox and things that are like your friends are already on, and you just don't view it as this important walled garden the way we did, because they really aren't anymore.
No. And I think this is one of the accelerating factors in, you know, consoles becoming less and less obvious walled gardens, with, you know, Microsoft being like, hey, this is a Xbox, that is an Xbox, that you see that man walking down the road, he's an Xbox. That kind of thing. And Sony being like, hell no, we're not keeping all of our games on PlayStation anymore, everyone can have them, we're going to put them on PC, whatever. And, you know, presumably leading up to Xbox will have PlayStation games. So I definitely see where this is going, and it is a wild state of affairs. But I think that's, like I said, I think that's there's definitely some level of contributing factor to the decline of consoles, and I think it's going to carry on continuing this way until, sadly, we reach a place where, you know, the ways we experience games no longer happen anymore. We won't be buying hardware. We'll be, you know, downloading an application, and the internet will be fast enough. Subscription service will be like accessible enough for the target audience that we're just streaming everything. And I hate the sound of that, but also it seems inevitable, you know. Like, my kids never ask for a console anymore. So it's just like, no, they've never, they just want ahi tuna in a can. Of course. Like, all right, great, I'll get you that.
Of course. Yeah, God, my cat, we got them those cheesy treats, and he is a crack addict for those things. It's a bad thing. Once he's done, I'm cutting him off. All right. Yeah. So hardware down 45%. As far as game sales go, this is like, you know, the top 20 best selling games, physical and full games digital, from the eShop, PlayStation, Steam, Xbox platforms, 4 publishers in the digital leader panel, which is their way of saying the publishers that share the data with them over there at Circana. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was number 1 again. Madden NFL 25 was number 2 again. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, meanwhile, which that just dropped on PC, right? Is that what happened there? That went from 56 to number 3. So big jump there. The only new game on this list, like new for the month, is Donkey Kong Country Returns at number 8. And of course, that doesn't include digital, because Nintendo does not share digital. Yeah.
Yonky Dong is back, baby.
Yes, he is. It's well, I'm trying to like see if there's even anything else like relatively new on this list.
The other thing is, like, and Jeff, you can, if you, at any point you feel like it's getting awkward or weird, like, I'm just gonna say it, but you can cut me off. The other thing that I think really impacts it is games themselves, you know. Let's talk about wokeness, okay, in video games.
I would never cut you off. That'd be a violation of your freedom of speech.
I'm not talking about wokeness.
Yep. The rest of this list is like, hey, Super Mario Party Jamboree at number 14 and Elden Ring at 15. There are so many games on this
Let's
list
go, Elden Ring.
that
Still
are
there,
so
hanging
ancient. The Crew Motorfest jumped to 18. What happened there? Is the Crew Motorfest having a resurgence? Tam, I'm going to play the Crew Motorfest. I haven't played it yet.
Here's the thing. The Crew Motorfest has just in the background quietly been good. Like, it's fine.
Okay. I've always heard it's okay.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
They clearly have zeroed in on a sustainable community, and they're just serving that community. And like like I said back then, it's not my kind of game that I would play like long term. But when I played it back in the day, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It's doing the same thing that like For Honor did, where some people played it and were like, nah, and then moved on. But like quietly in the background, things just been popular, you know. And as far also like, there's not a lot of racing games coming out, you know, that there's a big turnover of audiences where you're going from one game to the next in the genre. You pick a racing game, and at this point, you've probably played Forza or Gran Turismo, and the Crew is the one that feels most alive. So, makes sense.
Yep. I think the last point I would take away from the Circana report, and of course, this was January. Not a ton happened in January. That's the reality. That's why there aren't a lot of new games on the list. And if there were new games that popped off, they probably weren't from publishers that Circana gets data from. That's probably what happened there. But the accessories one is always one I like to look at. During the pandemic, accessory sales were growing every month, massive, like leaps and bounds. They were growing, and that was because people were planning to spend a lot of time playing video games. And accessories is something people spend money on, even if they're playing the same game over and over. If you're playing Fortnite, maybe you do go get a new controller. Maybe you do go get a headset. Maybe you invest in one of those expensive controllers, things like that. That accessory category has been dropping pretty consistently now for a while, and now it's kind of plummeting a little bit, down 28% versus last year. So in 2023 it was 100. January 2023 was 192 million. And it must have dropped. There must be a typo here because he said 194 million. That would be up for this year. So yeah, he doesn't have the right numbers here, but he says it fell 28%. PlayStation Portal, was the month's best-selling accessory. But beyond that, people are not buying headsets and controllers the way they once were, and I think that is. Looking into the data, if you want to find some evidence that people are not as hot on live service games as they once were, I think this is like your best bet when you look at like what hardware sells, because this is the category where controllers and headsets sell because of those kinds of games, and people are just not planning to spend much time playing those games anymore. So it really does feel like everything is pointing towards, and obviously we're seeing this with games like Concord crashing and burning. But if people are still like, hey, maybe our live service game could do well, I would be like, ooh, I don't know. The temperature seems wrong for those kinds of games right now. Is that something that sounds right to you?
Yeah, right now I would not be trying to get into the live service market, as I think it's fairly obvious that you better have something exceptional if you think you can kick it in that market anymore. I just don't think that it's a smart business decision these days, but that's not going to stop people from trying to make it. Definitely going to still happen, but yeah.
Got it. Someone in chat points out that they got a Hall effect controller, which is, the sensors don't use the mechanical things. They use magnetic fields, so you don't get stick drift. And stick drift happens on everything, not just Switch, but it happened especially bad on Switch. But it happens on everything. And they're saying, I got a Hall effect controller. It's not drifting. It's not breaking. It's lasting a lot longer. So I'm buying fewer controllers than I once was. It's like, oh man, that model of just letting these, like using cheap components so they break on a regular schedule so people have to buy a new one. That was a real thing, and it does feel like it's finally over. They finally broke it.
This is the one. Okay, this is the controller.
I love that thing. The Ultimate, the 8-bit Ultimate is what Tam's holding up.
Yeah, I've got another one over there. It's so good.
Yep,
this is the one I talked about on the Game of the Year stuff.
Yep.
Just whenever I need it, it works. It just works.
Everyone chat's popping off for it too.
Yep, and like it works better than Microsoft's official Microsoft gaming controller for the Microsoft platform on the Microsoft operating system, which cannot maintain a connection for more than like 3 minutes at a time. Absolutely dog shit behavior.
Yep. I think having, especially when the Ultimate comes with the dock, and the dock, you could plug the dock into your PC with a USB cord, and then the dongle sits in the dock. So it's right there, pretty close to probably where you're going to be playing. It's such a good idea, and it is such a strong connection. I've never had any issues with it. I know I talk about this thing all the time, so people are like, we get it. But man, I really do love it. So
it's so good.
Yep, so good, and I do not feel the need to get new controllers unless it's like, I could get a couple more of those for when like the girls want to play or something. That's where I'm at right with that. All right, let's move along here. Call of Duty's new update is apparently teasing a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater reveal. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Call of Duty's big new Season 2 Reloaded update is out now, and fans quickly discovered that one of the maps added to Black Ops 6 appears to point to a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater reveal soon. The Grind map, I get it, which takes place at a skate park, I get it, includes a banner that says 3/4/25 with the iconic Pro Skater logo above, and that as in March 4th, 2025, but also 3/4. As in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4, I don't think that's coincidence. Assuming it's styled for America, this would point to March 4th, 2025. Exactly what could happen on that day, however, is unknown. It was previously reported that a new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remaster would launch this summer. And if that's true, then March 4th could be when the game is revealed or at least teased further. Yeah, I am. Okay. I get Europeans in chat think it's April 3rd. But it's not. March 4th, we're going to get some more details here. I've heard Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 before, like a year ago. That it's been like an open secret being rumored online very frequently. Tony Hawk himself has like said something that's going to happen in the future. When this happened in Call of Duty. Hawk. Yeah, and then Tony Hawk like responded with the eyes emoji on social media. So yeah, feeling pretty good about this one at this point, Tam. I am excited. How about you?
I mean, I'm excited for people who love the Tony Hawk's games.
That's me.
Not one of those people. Like I've been a passing Tony Hawk enjoyer, like I said, just educational enjoyer of it. Like I was never super into those games.
Right.
I was an SSX boy. Okay.
Sure.
I played SSX Tricky. That was my trick-based game series that I was into. But
that's on the Mount Rushmore of this genre for sure.
Hell yeah. I just kind of like played Tony Hawk here and there just to be like, what are these games about? Why do people love them? And I got it. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense that they would want to release the first like re-release compilation was well received, right?
Yeah.
So and there's a desire for it. I just do wonder, are they building up to a new Anthony Hawk game? Because I would be fascinated to see if that would happen, especially in a world where skate is kind of existing.
Yeah, I think that they will definitely have that as a consideration. My big question, I think, is the question has been surrounding this project since it's been rumored is who is making it. Because Vicarious Visions is now Blizzard Albany. They work on Diablo. There's no way that they are going to like let those people reform a studio outside of that to go make this game. At least I don't think that's possible. So like, what is that studio? Like, what is the sustainability of that studio to continue working on Tony Hawk projects after this? Is it like, no, we have a team that's making this game and we're going to keep them together and they're going to keep working on stuff like this going forward, and stuff like this could mean, Thug 1+2 remasters or remakes, and then eventually a new Tony Hawk game. I mean, I think that's possible. I think they are maybe building up to that, but there's no guarantee at all that is what they're that's not their plan. It is just maybe one thing that could happen coming out of this, I think.
Do you reckon they keep it like, internal, where it's like, this Call of Duty team is currently not that busy, so we just put them on this? Or do you reckon they work with a third party?
Are you asking like they work for like an outside studio on this? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So Turbo Sean in chat has a great idea. Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob.
Yeah, I was going to say Toys for Bob. And did Beanox still exist?
I think Beanox still, but isn't Beanox the one who did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5? Was that Beanox? Let me see here. I just got to know for my own personal edification. They did help with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. So that's who I would think it would be, and like they have worked on it.
Yes, thank you. Robomoto did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Okay, so Beanox,
and they're doing support on Call of Duty.
Yeah. Yes, I think maybe that's possible that's the kind of team that they'd be able to be like, okay, you're helping with Call of Duty still, but you can have a team inside of there. Take the technology that was already established by Vicarious Visions and yourself. And because you're familiar with it, just take that same exact thing and just make the content from 3+4 instead, and then we have a game. Again, if that's the case, I think they probably like wrap things up here for now, and then they wait a long time, kind of like they did this time, and maybe come back to Thug 1+2. But I don't think they try to spool that up to a new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game anytime soon. That's just me trying to avoid myself from getting hurt, because I would like them to just keep doing Tony Hawk games every handful of years. You know, it doesn't have to be like it once was, where we got a new one every year. That'd be crazy. But every 4 to 5 years, a new Tony Hawk game would be fantastic. And I'm fine with sometimes they're remakes and sometimes they're a new game.
Yeah.
But I we'll see what the appetite is from Microsoft for that after this. Because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 was the best-selling Tony Hawk game, a franchise that has always done very well. So that must mean it sold very well. And I'm sure it did. It's a fantastic remake. Will 3+4 replicate that? I think it has a good chance of doing very well. I doubt it sells as well as 1+2, just because that was pent-up demand. But if it sells very well, I think Microsoft will find a way to continue to justify it, because I think they still want to be in a diversified publishing environment, even though they are less interested in Game Pass these days than maybe they once were. They're not so much less interested in it that they don't want to have a bunch of variety of content in there. So, yeah, I think Tony Hawk fits in very nicely with everything they're trying to do.
I think one of the wilder parts of the story is it got announced through Call of Duty,
yes,
which is crazy.
Very good point.
Like, I don't really care that much, but it's just like it's kind of weird that Activision is announcing a brand new game in a well-known franchise that has some motion behind it in Call of Duty. It's like, why? What?
Why?
Is this the only thing that like they can see anymore? It's like the only way we exist is Call of Duty. If we do anything, it needs to somehow be filtered through Call of Duty. It's like wild.
Yeah, but I mean, I think their thinking is the Tony Hawk people will find out about this. The people who care about this will find out about it one way or another. That doesn't matter. We're going to try to reach out to a wider audience. And what is the widest audience that we like have captivated? Call of Duty players in our live service Call of Duty games. So yeah, I think that is them being like, let's like try to really push this Tony Hawk game, make a big deal about it. Let's tell the Call of Duty people about it. And I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good move. We'll see if it pans out. We'll see if people care. But you're definitely right that when they start thinking about, hey, how can we reach out to people? All they see is Call of Duty, because it really is. It's much bigger than anything else they have other than Minecraft, I guess. And that's not really the way Microsoft works. That's like Activision is kind of a silo over here and Minecraft's over there. They can tease another Activision game, Tony Hawk, inside of Call of Duty pretty easily. Doing that with their other things that are under the Microsoft umbrella, a little bit more difficult for those teams. So yeah, I think this fit well, and we'll see if it actually pays off. But I'm glad they're trying to make Tony Hawk feel like a big deal, even to the Call of Duty people.
Yeah, good for them.
All
right. I just think it's weird.
Yep, it's definitely not weird. It's weird.
Yeah. I think it would be funny if they announce another Activision game that's like, X game is back, but it's announced for Call of Duty again. So all of the announcements should go for Call of Duty, no matter what it is. Guitar Hero's back via Call of Duty.
Should I worry that what's actually happening here is that there's going to be $90 worth of Tony Hawk skins in Call of Duty instead of a new Tony Hawk game?
I would be slightly worried, but I also feel like the fact that we've had a Tony Hawk 1+2 means that, yeah. If they come out and they're like, we've made Tony Hawk 3 and 4, but it's only available through Call of Duty, that would be insane. If there's like a corner of where is it? Is it still Verdansk? Where in the corner, just like people are just like fucking skating over there, and dudes with guns are like, what are those nerds doing? We're dying over here.
I kind of hope it's like they do both. I hope it's that the game comes out and Tony Hawk is in Call of Duty, and they kind of like recognize that they have this Smash Brothers like effect that they can have, where it's like people discover games because a character was in Smash Brothers, start putting characters into Call of Duty to sell other games, and I think that can work. It would annoy me though that to think about like there's kids out there that only discover Tony Hawk because of Call of Duty. That would bother me, but I'm an old man. Lots of things bother me. All right, I'm gonna fade to black for a real quick break, everybody. We're gonna come right back after this to talk about Samurai Pizza Cats for some reason.
Do we actually have time for a break? Because I need to run and pee.
Yeah, we could take a real break. Go ahead, take. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna start talking about it. You just hop back in when you get back.
Okay. I don't know anything about Pizza Cats.
Where'd Tam go? Tam, where'd you go? Don't worry, everybody. He'll be all right. It's okay. Yeah, the hot mics during the breaks. That's how we run this show. A game based on cult anime Samurai Pizza Cats is in development, and Tam doesn't care, so I let him go take a walk for a little bit. He'll be back soon. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. A new video game based on cult anime Samurai Pizza Cats is in development. Samurai Pizza Cats, Blast from the Past, is coming to all major platforms in 2026 with a Steam page already up. Set to be published by Red Dune Games, the game is being developed by Dutch studio Blast Zero, best known for the anime-inspired beat-em-up Jitsu Squad. The game is described as a 2D action RPG and will see players able to switch between the members of the Pizza Cats
Jalapeno peppers.
as they explore the world of Little Tokyo. Each cat will have their own abilities. Yeah, we're still on Samurai Pizza Cats. Tam, you're my Samurai Pizza Cat.
My favorite,
it's an anime, so you should know about it.
I know of it, but I don't know about it. If you know, I'm not about it.
I'm also not about it.
I don't know what that means. I mean, this looks like it's for people who I wouldn't trust around children.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it is one of those cartoons that got made because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a big thing, and you got
yeah.
What were the sharks? It's not sewer sharks. That's a Sega CD
I know.
game.
No, the sewer sharks is a thing, but it's like radical skating shots or
something like that.
Or something like that.
Street Sharks. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's Street Sharks. Because Street Sharks was fine. I was more of a Gargoyles person. Batman the Animated Series, Gargoyles. Sure. Those are
top tier works of fiction of all time, Tam. Those are fantastic things.
100%.
Biker Mice from Mars. Thank you. That's another good example, Tom. This is like, I think, one of those. But people like Samurai Pizza Cats. I do remember it like getting brought up pretty frequently. It is still incredibly weird that they're making a game based on this. A 2D action RPG. This? Let's see. It's made by Red Dune Games. That's who's publishing it. And Dutch studio Blast Zero, best known for the anime-inspired beat-em-up Jitsu Squad, is developing it.
Cool, man. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
I like samurais, I like pizza, and I like cats. Okay, so winning formula. That's all I've got to say.
It's also got a good look. I like the way it looks.
It's like cats that look like Mega Man them.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what it is, Tam. That's 100% right. And I like cats, and I like things that look like Mega Man. So fantastic.
Perfect.
And Deshaun says Jitsu Squad was pretty solid. So I'm sure. I bet this is going to be surprisingly good. Still, 2D action RPG. You would just kind of assume it's going to be a beat 'em up. But hey, cool. That sounds neat. It sounds like maybe like one of those GBA Dragon Ball Z games or something like that. We'll see.
I forgot there's another TMNT game coming out.
Yeah, the TMNT is just happening constantly. I think we're going to talk about. Did I put that in the story? I did not put that in the rundown.
It's from Strange Scaffold, which is the wildest part of it. It's a turn-based.
Strange Scaffold. What do they do?
What do you call it? Strange Scaffold. The Xalavier Nelson's group.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, man. A prolific person, that Xalavier.
That's wild.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the skins are in Call of Duty. If you want to get all the skins, $90. $90 for all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle skins.
I'm good.
Which
they look like the Michael Bay ones.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that, like, just to go back to Tony Hawk real quick. If they put Tony Hawk skins in Call of Duty, what do you think makes more money for Activision, Tam? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 or the Tony Hawk skins in Call of Duty?
Neither is making them a crazy amount of money because the people that play that Call of Duty they're not of the Tony Hawk generation.
But doesn't everybody just play Call of Duty from all these, across the board? I don't know.
When was the last time you played it?
You're right. Yeah, I only play it when
you're the target market for Tony Hawk.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Fair. I still think I think there's a chance that the skins make more money. That's the scary thing.
Do people believe? I just looked at the chat, which I rarely do, but like, do people believe that people who are playing Call of Duty Warzone give a shit about Tony Hawk, because you are delusional if you think that is true. That's insane. Like the audience of Call of Duty Warzone is so far beyond the people who know who Tony Hawk is.
Well,
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
to me, like Call of Duty is just like there's so many people playing Call of Duty that you're going to be able to sell something about anything to the audience, because that it's basically the audience of the world at a certain point. A lot of older gamers have been playing Call of Duty their entire life and still play it. But I suppose, it definitely won't be as successful as like when Spider-Man is in a game like this, for sure.
The international audience for Call of Duty, like Call of Duty is bolstered by abroad by so many different people than what people think. In America, Call of Duty is for old boomers, but like around the world, it's not the same, man. Like it is very different.
Right. Tony Hawk is like, maybe not Tony Hawk specifically, but Tony Hawk is looked upon as a figure of skating. Skating is more popular globally than it's ever been. It is massive in Japan, massive in South America, like national sport level of popularity in Brazil. In Japan, so
is Tony Hawk still that? Is he like?
He's Tony Hawk's a meme in those communities. So I think So I think that might translate. Like he's not like you're right. They don't know him the way that I know Tony Hawk. Where I was watching the X Games, which is a thing that was a TV show on linear cable in the '90s. Like definitely not having that experience. But those kids still make jokes about like, oh, I met a guy that looks kind of like Tony Hawk, and they'll take a picture of themselves with Tony Hawk and stuff like that. He's a meme to them. I don't think
Tony Hawk stuff in Call of Duty makes
it's not peanut butter and jelly.
A crazy amount of like dozen more numbers. I think it does more than the 3 and 4 game would. I think together they won't do any like blockbuster numbers or anything like to get excited about. They'll just break even, maybe a little bit higher, have a long tail. But I just don't think there's a massive overlap between people on like Call of Duty and people who care about Tony Hawk. I do wonder about like that number of like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 sold better than any Tony Hawk Skater game before that. I'm like, is that just part that there are more people in the world now? Like, I think 100%.
That's just a large numbers game.
I mean, that's a big part of it. Yeah, that is a huge part of it.
Yeah, more people playing games than ever, so that just kind of helps that.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going here. Split Fiction supports game sharing between formats. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. We already knew that Hazelight's upcoming Split Fiction, just like the studio's previous game, It Takes Two, can be played online with a friend, even if only one of you owns the title. Basically, you got like a coupon to share with someone else, and you can both play this game at the same time. Now, it's been clarified via Instagram that this concept is not only back in Split Fiction, something we knew before, but it has been further improved. The offer also applies to crossplay. Anyone who owns the game for Xbox can play with someone who has a PC or PlayStation 5 but does not own the title. We can only hope that more developers will follow this concept. Split Fiction will be released on March 6th, and now we're looking forward to it even more.
Joseph Ferris is wilding out somewhere. He's just like doing whatever the fuck he wants. You
remember when Randy Pitchford was like freaking out trying to get crossplay to happen on like with PlayStation, and he couldn't make it happen, and then Joseph Ferris is just pulling off magic tricks where Randy Pitchford could not.
Joseph Ferris is who Randy Pitchford thinks he is.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
An actual
Joseph
magical
Ferris
being.
Is like, Joseph Ferris is like, I think like he's doing what Elon,
Randy
Pitchford thinks he's doing. It's like he thinks he has that presence,
I understand.
Whereas he's doing these magic tricks, he makes he has like Pitchford has an Elon energy.
Yeah, they both look like they're high on Special K all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
And like compared to like Joseph Ferris being a little more legitimate, I was trying to figure out who would be the equivalent in the tech industry, but all the tech people are bad, so I didn't want to be like
they're all bad. Yeah,
Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is suck ass as well, so there's like no one really good. But yeah, shout out to Joseph Ferris just being like, I'm doing it. I don't care. I mean, but also like
clearly it benefits them, right? Like this is a game where if you're gonna like, am I gonna buy this game? Oh, I gotta find someone to play with. That's annoying, and I have to convince them to buy it as well. That's a non-starter. But this like really solves all of their problems.
Yeah. So during the Split Fiction event, I got to talk to him, and like his whole thing is like, if no one just tries to do it, it's never going to happen. And you have to be basically, it was like, you have to be an asshole about it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, I just go in there, say what I want, stand my ground, and sometimes it works. And this is one of those situations. But I think I talked about this before as well. But like, it also benefits them because they have an ecosystem which is like self-sustaining at this point. It's almost like, I talked to him about it and I was like, you have your own like Hazelight ecosystem where you're one of the few developers who are actively making co-op games. Even a fewer subset of them are making split screen co-op games. And even few of them are making it on a scale and budget that you have access to with the backing of EA. Which means if you do them right, you have this unique type of game that people play. And if they're good, the first thought is, I had such a good time with that playing with someone. I want to do more of that. And when they want to do more of that and they look what other games are like it, it's all Haze-like games for the most part.
Yep.
So like it behooves them to keep trying to speak to as many people as possible, because ultimately when they decide they want to spend more money on something like that, either past, present, or future, they look at what's available to them. It's more of the Hazelight games for the most part. So it makes perfect sense for them.
Yep. I think it's clearly, early on, I think I was skeptical of this whole thing. I'm like, all right, that's a cool little trick you're doing with A Way Out.
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing it again with It Takes Two? Gee. And then, of course, that game goes on to win Game of the Year. And I still have never played it because I don't, it's hard for me to like schedule time to play a game with other people in general. But I'm like, okay, fair enough. They found something that works and they've conquered this idea. Clearly they'll move on. And now that they've tripled down, I'm like, oh, I finally kind of understand it. It's what you just described. This path of like building something and being the only ones in that space. And then when people look for it, you're the only vendor that can provide that sort of experience. Oh, I get it now.
Yeah. You know, the article said, oh, we hope other developers learn from this. They won't.
Yeah, they won't. No way.
I don't think it's sustainable for a lot of most companies and developers at the types of games that they are making. I feel like even if Hazelight and Joseph Fares don't admit it, they are somewhat kind of careful about the scale and type of game that they make, because they have to factor in the fact that they're going to be giving a bunch of these games away. I don't think it's a business model that you can quickly apply to all games or a bunch of other games without changing the type of game, the budget that you have, the scale of the game, and like that various other factors that will change the overall experience to be different. So yeah, I don't think many others are going to be learning for it. It might be a few situations where others are in a position to also adopt this, but yeah, I don't think it's likely.
I mean, I think you're also right in that, you know, they're in a very unique position, right? Because think about the kinds of studios that would think that this is an idea, that this is something they could pull off. If you're an indie studio, you got to get kind of a little bit bigger to compete in this space now, because these like Split Fiction doesn't look indistinguishable from a lot of like, I guess, AA games, for as useful as that term is. It's not very useful. It looks like a pretty high budget game. It Takes Two is like a full-fledged massive game with like a lot of content in there. But then if you're on the other side, if you're like this big AAA studio, you're like, that this will limit our potential audience if we can only sell to people who are going to play cooperatively. So we're not going to do that either. But, you know, Hazelight is basically an independent studio that constantly works with EA now and has had a lot of success doing so. So they have this backing of a major publisher. And so it's a unique position that where they can kind of do this and can be the only ones that can really make this make sense.
Yeah,
all right.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on here to the Switch OLED. Mario Wonder Bundle revealed ahead of Mario Day. This is from Liam Doolin and Nintendo Life. We talked about this before, but now it's confirmed. Nintendo is releasing this thing. It's basically already up for sale. It will launch on March 1st, so about a week from now. That leads into Mario Day on March 10th. So they're not holding this back for a Mario Day presentation or anything like that. But that doesn't mean they won't have something to talk about on Mario Day. They usually do. But obviously Nintendo in a little bit of a weird spot because Switch 2 is coming. And a lot of people assume, because Switch 2 is coming, a new 3D Mario, or at least a new game from that 3D Mario team, will be coming as well. And with that in mind, it's like, oh, well, you know, what are they going to actually have for this Mario Day? Well, it might be stuff like this. Little gestures towards that huge audience that has come into Nintendo gaming and Mario, and interest in Mario since the movie popped off so hard. And now Nintendo has a product targeted right at that audience and can take advantage of that. Do you expect Nintendo to have any like I don't know, like a Mario 35 equivalent like they had a few years ago, because I think we are at the 40th anniversary, right, for Mario this year. Is that right? Has it
Yeah,
been? It's something like
I
that.
think so. I honestly don't know where Nintendo is at these days with this kind of celebratory stuff, because it was pretty much the only thing they were doing for a really long time, right? Like there was a period where it's just like, oh, another anniversary style thing is coming out, which is like, oh, great. I think with a new platform on the horizon, it might behoove them to focus on building momentum with new things. But I wouldn't be surprised if they sprinkle in some of this, like, remember us? We got the Mario. He's still knocking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing here is, this is something that didn't get announced at like a mini Nintendo Direct or something that could be happening still. Like I said, I've heard something might happen, but that was vague and odd. And PH Brazil, from who has had these rumors before, keeps saying he's hearing something. We'll see. At this point, I don't expect it to be anything major, because if it's going to happen in February, that would mean next week now. And next week is, I think there's an Xbox showcase of some kind. Like, are they doing like one of their, I think they're doing one of their indie things, right? I meant to look into that. Let's see, Xbox.
Did I miss it already?
Xbox show. Let's see here. News. Yeah, I meant to double check on this, but I think, okay, for sure, Pokemon Direct is happening next week. ID at Xbox, yes, the indie Xbox showcase happening next week, and I think there's like one other show happening, so maybe a bunch of stuff will happen, and Nintendo will have something as well. At the very least, Pokemon Direct will happen. And yeah,
what is this story that you never mentioned? Elden Ring movie.
There's an Elden Ring movie? I'm sorry, Cam.
I'm dying.
Yeah, you're dying. Elden Ring movie. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay.
It's just George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, I did see this, and I sort of I'm like, well, that's nothing.
George.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin reveals there is some talk about making a movie out of Elden Ring, but there's one big obvious thing that could limit his involvement with it. That's according to IGN. I don't know.
There's no way this gets made. However, if it does, George, I would like to play the role of Rykard. I'll take Rykard, but if you can get me in as Bok the Seamster, I'll take that as well. You know what I'm saying?
I would just like to do some of the motion capture for some of the bosses. That's just let me in there, and I will just do some freaky stuff with my body for you.
I'll do that regardless.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that no matter what. But if you want to point a camera at it and capture some data for a computer, I'm giving you full permission right now. Yeah. All right. Last thing here, Among Us VR is getting a non-VR release called Among Us 3D. Basically, they're just adapting the VR game that they made to 3D so that everyone can play it together. The VR people will be able to play with people on PC now. Cool. Yeah, Among Us is still a pretty big game.
Among Us became a VR game, and now it's being un-VR'd, but somehow it's a different game.
Yeah, somehow a different game. Yep. I like Among Us. I don't play it like all the time, but like that's a game I want to check in on like once a year. So maybe we'll use this as an excuse to play some more Among Us.
I would be down for that. That would be fun.
Last thing, that was the last headline I have here. But there was that story that Supergiant was going to replace some voice actors because of the strike. They just came out and said we're not doing that. So I'm like, it sounds like it's not really a story, but that's you all caught up on that now. If anything does change there, we'll cover it, but I just don't think there's much happening there.
Lego Game Boy, what's going on?
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. So the Lego Game Boy, they announced that previously, but they haven't given us any details about it. They gave us a price. It's like $60 for a 421 piece set, something like that, and it's coming out soonish.
Love that.
So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive per Lego brick than other licensed kits from Lego. So it's like, oh, what's going on there? But other than that, hey, cool, Lego Game Boy. I want one.
Can you tell how busy I've been lately? Because I'm just seeing news from like 2 days ago and be like, what the?
Yeah, I'm like, I know you said you were okay for today, but I'm like, is he going to be there? I thought he was still traveling. So, okay. There we go. All right, let's get to the poll question. This one's from yesterday. I have it right there. If it loads in, fantastic. Do you use AI tools for work? You had all those AI news from Microsoft talking about how they're going to have their developers use it.
That was the funniest series of announcements where I was like, dog, this is the worst time for you to do this shit, man.
I know, and I don't get why all these companies still come out and I mean, I guess
So
I get
funny.
it. They're talking to people who don't immediately roll their eyes at that stuff, but
They're
we're
talking
out
to
here
investors.
too. Yes,
They're
of
talking to
course.
investors. I don't think there's a single group of people outside of investors and like the bubble, AI bubble, that needs to know when you're doing an AI product, because otherwise it has a net negative
Yeah.
effect on anything that you're doing.
If it's good,
So,
just
yeah.
put it out and people will adopt it, right? Like let it just speak for itself at a certain point these
don't
days.
just do it. If you're out there being like investors, if you're going like AI, it's just for people who have money and investing and start stonks and stuff like that. Because let me tell you, I've been using AI, unfortunately, for a bunch of things because it's forced into my workflow via just, suddenly you open an email application and it's got AI and you're like, oh, fucking, I didn't even get a choice. I got the new iPhone, Apple Intelligence. The most useless thing I have ever encountered in my entire life.
Yeah.
It is like offensively annoying with how unusable it is and pointless it is. And it's like they're using it to market the new phones, this big thing. I'm like, it is crap. It has not made my life easier in any way.
Yep.
It's just bizarre.
I mean, Apple Intelligence is especially bad, but that's the truth for a lot of them. The results here are 74% said no, 26% said yes. I don't use AI for this job ever. I have used AI for when I have a bunch of thoughts that I write down in a notebook or like a notepad app. And I'm like, oh, I wish like all this is kind of a mess. I wish I could just have something organize it. I use it for that. And then yesterday I was making homemade slime with my daughters, and my hands were covered in sticky slime. And like I'm like trying to get the instructions out because there's a little thing that says how to make it less sticky. But first of all, it was poorly translated, probably by AI. And I couldn't understand a thing it was saying. Also, it was hard to like turn the pages because my hands were sticky. So I met my phone there. I'm like, okay, the company that owns everything, what should I do if the slime is too sticky? Can you explain it? And the AI voice came up and it's like, it just explained it because that's a case where the internet is going to have that over and over again. The answer for that, it is a decided known thing. I can trust that the results for that will probably be accurate. And if they're not, the worst case scenario is my hands are still sticky from slime. It's low stakes.
That is the most insane anecdote and context for using AI I've ever heard.
I think it's going to be way more common than you think.
Covered in slime, man.
Everybody's going to be covered in slime. Do you know how popular slime is with kids, Tam? Kids love slime. Elmer's Glue, the company that owns Elmer's Glue, they sold out of Elmer's Glue because that's the basis for homemade slime, to the point where they had their best earnings ever after this began to pop off. It's nuts.
What's wrong with people?
Either way, I don't love it. I hate my hands being sticky. It was very uncomfortable, but my kids really love it. So whatever, I bear it for them. All right, we got a new poll question we'll get to here in a second. But first, Tam, why don't you tell people what you have going on, where they can find you on the internet, like where the results of a lot of this cool stuff you've been doing recently will pop up, all that good stuff.
The only AI I like is Allen Iverson. I am on stuff as Timur.com on Blue Sky. The stuff that we're working on is still kind of behind the scenes. It's slowly going to be start to get a rollout. We've been trialing new styles of content that will hopefully make their way out in an interesting way for folks to enjoy. We're going to have Giant Bomb and GameSpot working closer together on a bunch of things. You'll see a lot more collaboration happening because we're all very good friends, and it doesn't make sense for us to try and make two pools of content when we can make a singular pool that's even better while still maintaining our kind of unique identities. It should be fun. It should be enjoyable.
It's going to be good. We're going to have a lot more to say about it soon, like all the details and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Giant Bomb isn't going away. GameSpot isn't going away. No. We're not forming into one. We just realized that we have the most fun when we're in the same spaces working together, because we would go to like Summer Game Fest and work together, and it's such a good time. And we're like, oh, we came up with these amazing ideas. So now it's just like, oh, let's just break down that barrier as much as we can. And
there's
just
a ton of people over there that I want to work with more frequently. That's that simple.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a kind of iterative process where we work with, the people who are watching, the audience, both live, VOD, social, whatever it may be, to kind of iterate on this stuff. It's going to be very live focused, but there will be VOD elements of it, and we're trying to strengthen the community and build a more creative output of shows and content, and it's going to be enjoyable. I hope people look forward to it.
That's right. Yeah, and like I said, we'll have a lot more to say soon. It will be pretty obvious how things are different, but it's not going to be massive change. And if you like shows like this, you have nothing to worry about. I'm not going anywhere.
I've seen some stuff about this show.
Yeah.
I've given approval on some things on this show, and it's going to be good.
It's going to be a good time. All right. Let's see here. New poll question. Did you ever watch Samurai Pizza Cats? Yes or no? I just want to get your response on that, which will be very informative to me based on like my assumptions on this audience. I have no idea like what the results of this are going to be. So we'll talk about this on Game Mess Mornings, on Giant Bomb, on Monday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, we don't have a plan for BCR and UPF, so I'm going to go figure that out right after this, everybody. We're going to do something today.
Overwatch. Do more Overwatch.
Yeah, play more Overwatch. I might, because we don't have a plan, I might try to get Thug Pro going.
Okay.
Because it was very easy to install, and if I can like gather together people to play that, we might make that happen. But we'll see. All right, let's see. So Kane Highwind just said play this. I'm gonna click on that. Whatever it is, I'm gonna play it. Whisker Squadron Survivor sounds like a pornography game, so I'll definitely play that.
Is this Star Fox?
It looks like a Star Fox, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
There's been a handful of these
in
now.
the chat. Relax. Brad is not leaving. Please chill out. Brad is fine. He's not going anywhere.
Where'd you guys get that idea? All right. Let's see here. Anything else that we should point out? We'll be back next week. Last Friday, I'm like, I'll see you on Monday. And then we had Monday off. I had no idea.
Yeah.
This Monday, pretty sure we'll be back.
I will not be here next Friday.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
I will be traveling.
All right. No problem. Well, we'll get someone to stand in for you as best we can, which is never very good. But in the meantime,
find my official replacement, Jordan Middler.
Yeah,
we'll
just get him back.
Get him back.
It's been a minute, so yeah, we'll get Jordan back in. All right, Timur Hussein, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Love doing it. And we'll see you again very soon.
See you again. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. Okay, wrapped up YouTube.